Welcome back here on Live Now from Fox, 2:55 on the East Coast and 11:55 on the West Coast. My name is Josh Breslow, and I'll be with you for the next couple hours to bring you all of your top stories, live events, and breaking news on this Thursday, October 16th. Right now, we are still awaiting those live comments coming in from President Donald Trump in the Oval Office. As I mentioned here, we essentially had an image that was coming in from the Oval Office, but they have taken it down as those final preparations are underway. Again, all we're being told is this is going to be an announcement of some kind. We'll bring you those comments in full. No commercials, commercial free here on Live Now from Fox. Now, in the meantime, President Trump did say that he had a, quote, very productive call with Russian President Putin today, and the two will soon meet in Budapest, Hungary, for talks to end the war with Ukraine. The call with Putin comes one day after Trump will welcome Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to the White House as his attention turns to that years-long conflict. Ivana Stradner is a research fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, joining us now live to discuss all of this. Ivana, as always, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us.
Always pleasure.
And first off, the first question I want to ask you here is, we know that President Trump and President Putin are set to meet now in Budapest. Why Budapest, Hungary? What does that say to you?
So it's very actually significant because in 1994, there was the Budapest Memorandum where the United States, Russia, and the UK committed to respect the independence and sovereignty and existing borders of Ukraine. And they actually committed to refrain from the use or threat of force. So this is very significant. Russia, of course, does not believe that with its full-scale invasion, but also in 2014 and Russian invasion in Ukraine did not violate the Budapest Memorandum, while the West believes, many in the West believes that Russia did indeed violate Budapest Memorandum. So this is very significant. But also why Budapest, I also think it's because Hungary, since Russia's full-scale invasion has been very much aligned with Russia's stance, how they want to end this war, and they also blame, the West for it. So it was some sort of like a safe space, if I may call it, for Putin to show up there and to meet with President Trump.
And I wanted to ask you about what to expect tomorrow, because we know that President Zelensky will be at the White House. There's going to be a lot to discuss there about the war. And I believe I actually said leading into you that this was a day after, but it's a day before, because Zelensky is going to be at the White House tomorrow. So I wanted to ask you what we should watch for during that. What do we expect will happen during that face-to-face meeting?
We have to first and foremost understand what Putin wants, and Putin does not want to give up his ambition in Ukraine. For him, Ukraine, it's all or nothing, and this is what I like to always call for his survivalist mode an existential thing. And make no mistake, he wants to subjugate Ukraine, and he also does not want to end his ambition in Ukraine. So to set that tone, then we can now discuss Zelensky's meeting with President Trump. And I think that President Trump more and more sees through Putin's games. So he is trying to find a mutual agreement between Russia and Ukraine. My concern is that we should not fall for Putin's agenda, that Ukraine should give up its territory. And I truly hope that President Trump is not going to push President Zelensky on that. As a matter of fact, Trump has two options, which is if negotiation fails, and I do believe, unfortunately, that they are not going to be successful in the long run. President Trump has still option to impose severe sanctions on Russia, including secondary sanctions, but also to deliver weapons to Ukraine that Ukraine can use to put Russia on the defensive. And the reason why I'm very pessimistic about this, I have to tell you, you have to understand how Putin thinks. He thinks in zero-sum game. For him, your loss is my win. And not only that, he's also willing to accept that both parties lose, but he would love Ukraine to lose more. There is an old Russia joke, I have to tell you. There was a peasant living between two houses, and both houses had cows. And peasant was very upset that he didn't have a cow. So he was praying to God, and God asked him, "Can I give you a cow?" And he said, "No, I want you to kill the cows of my neighbors." So this really tells you all you need to know how the Kremlin thinks. There is no such a thing as a win-win game for Putin. He wants to pose this. He wants to make a break to reposition his military and then continue. And as a matter of fact, we are already seeing how Putin is trying to test NATO. We already saw what happened with drone incursion in Poland, what happened in Romania. There are numerous sabotage activities across Europe. So he's really trying to use his new generation of warfare just below the threshold of war to put pressure on the West. And my last point is, yes, Putin cares a lot about Ukraine, but there is one other thing, which is that he wants to also rewrite the global order along with its allies in China and Iran and North Korea. Yes, they are not friends, but they're frenemies, which means that they have a mutual enemy, which is the United States. So this also serves to some extent as a proxy war for China, and China is more than happy that this war continues. So having said that, Putin only understands one thing, which is power and strength. So I truly hope that once again, President Trump will impose his policy of peace through strength and not to fall for Putin's games, which is short-term ceasefire to accomplish his long-term objectives.
I also wanted to ask here about the relationship between the U.S. and Ukraine, specifically about President Trump and President Zelensky. How have we seen their relationship change over the past several months, and how have we seen the relationship between Trump and Putin change as well?
So if you asked me that question 6 months ago, it was a very different relationship because President Trump didn't like Zelensky's stance, a very firm stance on where the war was going. And there were numerous talks between Russia and the United States. And every time when President Trump offered a negotiation, Putin retaliated by even more attacks on Ukraine. And I think President Trump is really seeing through Putin's games, and his relationship with Russia and with President Putin is changing. So that's precisely what also gives me lots of confidence that President Trump will once again put Putin on the defensive. And I truly hope that he will not fall for his game about short-term ceasefire, because make no mistake, Putin has only one goal, which is to subjugate Ukraine. And the second goal is also to undermine the West. He's going to continue with his sabotage and shadow war, make no mistake.
Kind of going back to a question I already asked you, I wanted to know about you personally, what, as you analyze all of this, you're going to be watching for during the discussions between Trump and Zelensky tomorrow, because odds are we're going to get kind of a Q&A there. We'll see them talking over in the Oval Office. So what are you specifically going to be looking for?
There are a couple of things that I will be looking for. Number one, I would like to see what President Zelensky is willing to give up. The second thing is I really, really hope that President of the U.S. will not push for Zelensky to give up its territory. And the third thing is I'm also going to watch very carefully Russian news and how they are going to weaponize that agreement, that meeting, because it would also set a tone for Trump-Putin meeting. Whoever believes that we have to be kind to Putin so he can save his face does not really understand that Putin completely controls the information space, so he can spin any information in the way that he wants. So even certain losses he's going to present as wins. And there is really not a middle ground here, what we have to really understand when we negotiate with Russia, because for Putin, it's nothing or all.
All right, Ivana Stradner, thank you so much for taking the time, as always, to join us. Anything you want to add about any of this here before I let you go?
As I always like to emphasize on your show, that Putin only understands one thing, which is power and strength, and peace through strength is exactly what President Trump should leverage with his negotiations with Putin, because kindness is weakness for him.
Thank you so much, as always, for helping to break it all down. We definitely appreciate it.
Thank you.